My name's I'm one of the directors of degreeart.com. We are an online company and we also have a physical presence in this gallery in Vyner Street, and we represent recently graduated artists and artists who are still studying. Thursday was an initiative started by Time Out magazine and the Whitechapel Gallery in East London, and it was started to encourage sort of the city workers and people who worked in central London to come over to the East End and kind of experience and see all the sort of culture and galleries and artistic and creative things and happenings that were going on in the East End all the time, but kind of honing it down to one evening a month and kind of making it more accessible for everyone and kind of making it quite a fun night out as well. So all the galleries in the East End, they open late with a new exhibition on first Thursdays, and everybody can just come down and enjoy the shows that are on, and there's also a lot of performance art happens, and you know, most people have drinks, so you can come down and have a drink and sort of socialise with mostly a lot of other artists and creatives and things like that. It's just a really fun evening.
You can just ring us up and say,
it's good to know one scoop only.
One only? Okay, then I want chocolate. Yes, please.
We've got a new exhibition called Lost Britain, and it's by one of our photographers called Will Nixon, who graduated from Central St Martin's in 2004. He did fine art BA and specialised in photography, and his practice involves he takes photographs of sort of very iconic buildings or buildings that are soon to be demolished. He photographs them, he then cuts up the photographs and collages them with different places, so there'll be kind of maybe the skyline of somewhere that's quite recognisable, with the rooftops of another building, maybe, I don't know, Battersea Power Station, and then there'll be a street sign from somewhere else, and the road will actually be from somewhere else, and there'll be another building in the background or the foreground that will be completely separate. But he does it in such a clever way. When he collages them back together, he photoshops them so all the lines kind of, they have the same line of perspective, and he photographs the collaged image again and then reproduces the photograph of the collaged image, so it actually looks like somewhere that you recognise because you recognise elements of the iconic buildings, but you think, well, I know that building, but it's not next to that building, and I know it's not, that road doesn't really exist in front of that place, and so you have this kind of recognition and nostalgia with places, but they're actually fantasy landscapes. They don't exist, obviously, because they've been kind of manipulated and manufactured.
So I started like constructing images in sort of like such a fashion that you'd sort of like look at the pictures and it'd almost be on a knife edge, sort of like whether it was believable or not. Like some images you'd have like the sun like shining at like two different angles, so sort of like the trained eye would probably like pick up on that kind of thing, but if you weren't sort of like looking properly, I mean, you would just assume that they were real.
I mean, for me, I took that at face value. So I think, how did you manage to get that style spliced in so well?
like anything, it's just like the more you do it, you sort of like you get sort of tuned into it. It's just like my earliest compositions, sort of like going back to 2003, were quite crude kind of thing, and I was literally just experimenting sort of like with form and colour really, and how the objects themselves, once sort of like taken out of their normal surroundings, they lose their functionality. It's just like with the phone boxes picture over there, it's just like, although they're representational of phone boxes, they're just colour and shape on a page, and it's just like how they interact with other pictures as well. And then furthermore from that, there's obviously like the concepts of the real and like how much you want to read into them, and then the political connotation, if any.
across this sort of like, it's just this, everything seems to be condensed in this one street, hundreds of little art galleries and people just doing stuff, little exhibitions, people who are interested in just seeing new work. It's really inspiring.
I think the more you do something, you sort of like you sort of home in on it, and you know what you want more in your own mind. But I think changing like where I've lived, it's just like it's opened up sort of like a new landscape for me completely, and hence me living in Brighton, I've obviously been quite inspired by like the seaside and sort of like the old like dilapidated scenes that you can find around there, and just trying to capture them how they are. I think it's quite important, and then we take it for granted, and these buildings might not be around forever either, kind of thing. They're sort of like on the cusp of whether like be knocked down and sort of like turned into sort of like new build glass and concrete apartments, or if they're going to be done up and salvaged as they are in Grand Ocean 1 and 2. It just used to be like a whole old hotel which has been derelict for like years, and thankfully someone invested in it, and hopefully people will be living in there in like a year or so.